Thank you so much for being here, Stefan. Very grateful and appreciative for you making the time. This is our fifth unit Masters live session where we speak with experts, innovators, visionaries like Stefan, who can share his insights. We're going to be starting with a hero's journey where Stefan kind of walks through his path as an entrepreneur and investor, and someone who has created a path for himself and is a huge inspiration to myself, and I'm sure many of us here today. Stefan has been involved in a number of technology projects. I'm super excited and have spoken with him extensively about the idea of the token-driven economy and how tokens and digital currencies can do so much good for the world, especially in solving the inequity. I'm also a really big fan of Bitcoin.com in terms of building the digital asset ecosystem. I think Stefan has done an amazing job there, and excited for him to share his journey there. And also really excited to hear his vision in terms of where the industry is headed. And I'll pass over the mic to him. Thank you.
No, thank you for having me, Michael. I hope you can hear me well. I've been talking for a while now, so it should be good. But yeah, thank you all for joining and signing up here and listening to me. I am humbled and at the same time honored to be here and share some of my experiences and stories, right? What am I doing right now and what am I working on now? I don't know. My background, basically, let me start in my background. I was born in Hong Kong, did my education in Switzerland, and felt that Switzerland, I loved Switzerland as a country, but it was very structured and regimented. And I had this opportunity to go to China. I felt that I wanted to learn Mandarin. I felt there's a 1.2 billion people speaking Mandarin. So I wanted to go to China. And so I moved to China. I, funnily enough, met the head of Siemens in China and the head of CITIC, or one of the our companies under CITIC, who were launching China Unicom. And so we concocted this idea to launch a company that would build, operate, and transfer mobile networks to China Unicom under China Unicom umbrella. So I got Siemens to help fund it. And we built out and raised some significant amount of money to launch 4 mobile networks in 4 different cities in China: Shenyang, Wuhan, Tianjin, and Qingdao. And so it was an amazing ride and a very successful journey. And I was super young at the time, so it was like a great ride. Then we sold that to China Unicom when they wanted to do their IPO. And then I bumped into some people at Sun Microsystems, Jonathan Schwartz, who then became the CEO of the company. And he asked me to focus on bringing Java to mobile. And so it's like, I knew mobile, but I didn't know software in mobile. So I got into the whole software space and built an ecosystem around that. And then throughout that, I then left and launched Exicon in the mobile business. And then we grew a developer network for all the competitors to Apple, from Google to BlackBerry to Qualcomm, Sony, etc. And then we just grew that network. And that's when I stumbled across Bitcoin. Somebody wanted to get paid in Bitcoin. So in 2012, we paid them in Bitcoin. Or 2013, he told me about it in 2012. So I got to know about it. And then in 2013, and I was hooked right away. And I then luckily met Roger over the course of that journey. And then he asked me to come in and help out on Bitcoin.com. And I saw what sort of activities and the potential around that. And so I got involved and said, I'll grow 3 deals in 3 months. We did 5 deals in those 3 months. Partnership with HTC we launched. We launched an exchange. We got credit card approval, a debit card approval, I should say. We rebranded. And so then I grew that network as the CEO afterwards to 11 million users that had wallets, and sort of got people on the exchange, got trading, BCH pairs, and really held the community in the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem together. And we were using that for helping drive payments, right? For us, it was really about peer-to-peer payments. How do you use cryptocurrency as a transactional solution versus a hodling solution, which I think Bitcoin has become today, where we just hodl it as gold. And then going forward, how do we need to increase the velocity and the transactions associated with that. So how do we keep the cost super low? How do we make a transaction in nanoseconds, right? And so for us, we brought it down to 10 nanoseconds per transaction. So it was faster than a credit card getting confirmed, things like that. And our belief was we need to be 10x better than our predecessors, and then we need to be 10 times bigger than our competitor in order to be bigger, and then the regulator can realize to catch up and then close us down. So that was it. And then in the early of this year, around the pandemic, we couldn't travel anymore, and I just saw the crisis was much bigger than just the COVID. How do we change the world, and how do we use blockchain for the good in that? And so Roger and I agreed that, you know, my time was done at Bitcoin.com, and I would hand it over to Dennis, who was my successor and I was working with all the time. And then, sort of got into now Sonic.capital. And Sonic.capital is investing in technologies using the blockchain to help fix and tokenize our planetary ecosystem. Carbon credits, DRECs, which are distributed energy certificates, and then blue carbon, so water. How do you carbonize the water, and what are the carbon credits that can be generated out of that? And so that's what we're focused on. Who's building those technologies, and then using blockchain and all the DeFi services to enable that and provide the distribution, the funding mechanisms, and enable all these companies from Apple to Microsoft to Amazon to be able to come in and offset their bad footprints by buying these carbon credits, having them freely tradable, and creating future products associated with those. So financial instruments that allows them to trade it 20 years out and buy tomorrow to today. And that's where I am today. And so we just announced that fund, and we're in the middle of fundraising, and we've already deployed 2 investments. One in a company called Regen.network, and another one in All Infra. All Infra focuses very much on the solar, and then the Regen focus very much on soil, and how do I capture the sequestration of carbon inside the soil. So biodiverse farmers, how do they then make carbon credits off the back of that, so they can charge the same price for a organic, juicy, tasty tomato versus a mass-produced, manufactured, pesticide infused tomato. And so that's sort of where we're at the moment. So humbled to be on here. Thank you. Do you want me to just continue to talk, Michael, or how do you want to do? How does this go?
Yeah, no, this is great. I mean, love to hear in terms of your story, in terms of how you started, and like what were your difficulties along the way, and yeah, like I would love to hear, like, yeah, maybe the audience are keen to hear where you were born, and like how your upbringing was, and did you always know that you wanted to be a technology entrepreneur and investor, and like what were the difficulties along the way, and yeah.
Yeah. No, I mean, I was born in Hong Kong. I think I mentioned that, and I grew up here. And I remember, you know, in those days you still had newspapers and radio, and when I grew up, we had in there. I remember there was a whole page of always stocks, and I remember, you know, I wanted to find out pick some stocks, and I wanted to get into investment because Hong Kong's all about money. I'm half Swiss and half Scottish. So, I mean, in Hong Kong, so it's like all money, 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 money. And then, so I just got into the whole stock trading thing, and I loved science fiction. And so I liked sci-fi, future, and then stocks. And I just took a very simple approach to, I brush my teeth every day. Everybody else brushes their teeth every day. There was this brand that Colgate tasted the best. And so I just put down on a list in a spreadsheet, Colgate at that price. Everybody's drinking Coca-Cola. Oh, Coca-Cola's great, tastes good. It's like, okay, so let's buy Coca-Cola. And then I bought Coca-Cola. And then so that I sort of started building out a view that I had a good sense of where the direction of people were going. And it was reflected in that I sort of had a good idea around that. And so I have always been lucky in being able to invest in good company. I got into Tesla when it was really early on. I got into Facebook when nobody else wanted to invest in the stock. And so all of a sudden I got into a lot of these technologies. I mean, really early on, and even earlier, I got into some other stocks. But what I felt there was that I had that trend, but what I was annoyed about was I never had access to them earlier. They were always privileged. You had to be in this exclusive club of a venture capital firm, or in this, sort of, it's private. It was only shown to certain companies. So how can I get into that earlier, and how could I provide that to others earlier? And that was sort of the impetus behind Sonic first. But what I felt was developers had always shown me in my interactions with developers, particularly when I got into technology. And I was fascinated by technology because I felt with CompuServe being the first sort of exposure that I had to the internet was an amazing tool, so democratizing. And for us here in a closed room, if I wouldn't have had CompuServe and the internet, I don't think I would have passed my master's degree. So it was this huge help for me to get and do all my research. And then I just got hooked into that capability. And so that's what drove me through the internet, into mobile, the portability, the maneuverability of everything. And yeah, so that's what passion was about. But I think, yeah, and then I didn't feel that every time I joined a big company, I always felt that there was a slowdown, or there were processes in play. I mean, when I first tried to join a big company, I remember it was Lucent Technologies, a big NEP. I thought, I've come from telco. They were looking to have somebody help their business development. And I just felt that in order to do a transaction, you needed 30 signatures on documents that had to be shipped around the world, and it was physically shipped. So you had these envelopes where people had to actually physically sign documents and send that around. It just felt, and then I called the people, have you signed it? Where is it, right? And it's like, I need it now because we're going to close the deal tomorrow. And so to chase everybody down all the time, and all they cared about was, oh, has Jack signed it, or has Joe signed it? And then if Joe signed it, yeah, you can put me down. I'm in it for it. It's like, I'll sign it. I'll do it now. And so all they cared about was 3 or 4 people. If they've signed it, then that's okay. And so then I realized, how do we streamline that and cut that? But then I felt that that was too slow. It took so much time, that I loved this sort of entrepreneurial side of business. And I felt Sun Microsystems at the time was super entrepreneurial. I was reporting into the future CEO. And it was like so easy and so fast in terms of ability to move things. And it was very open. We lived in an open sourced environment. It was very decentralized. There was no hierarchy, and things were just moved really quickly. And after my entrepreneurial experience in China, where we were working, it's like crypto times. We were working 7 days, 27 hours a day, 7 days a week kind of thing. But it was super fun. I was highly energized. I, made some great contacts in that period. And so that sort of entrepreneurial, I felt that Sun had sort of more an entrepreneurial. You had the comfort of being paid on a regular basis and stock options and all of that stuff, but you didn't have necessarily that entrepreneurial pressure of, I got to make salary pay next end of this week, or things like that. But you still had that same sense, which, anyway, that was sort of the experience. And then I sort of felt, after doing that for 7 years, I wanted to get back into the entrepreneurial environment. Got back, set up on my own. It started off really well, where everybody was trying to take off in the mobile. And then over time, sort of roles changed in the customer base that we were working with. And I just didn't want to we were doing hackathons. We were doing 30 hackathons a day. A year, anywhere in the world. Sorry, not a day. And we were, and it was phenomenal, super fun. We built a network of about maybe 60,000 software developers within about 15 to 20,000 companies that were building applications for the aforementioned companies that I talked about. So it was challenging. Number one, finding the developers in a given market. You needed to, and finding the people that could help get those developers to a specific event. Number 3, promote the technology that is not a standard technology to them so that they would come to the event and learn about it. And then lastly, also, then to be able to then hold an event where it's entertaining and that the customer's happy and they got like 4 or 5 new developers in their network building a solution on their platform. And so that was the big chase. But you met some super entrepreneurs in that environment, great talent, highly energized people, motivated, wanting to learn. And it came down to, throughout all of those events, it became very simple. We identified a simple formula as to what developers and software developers are looking for, and how you as a brand, if you're looking to build a platform, what you need to do to appeal to those developers around the world. It was 4 things. It was, is it easy? So are the tool sets easy? Is the SDK simple? Is the documentation available? So how easy and how long is it to take me to learn how to use that? Number 1. Number 2 was money. Are you paying me to write an app for you? Then that's super easy too, right? I get paid. So there was developers that just wanted to get paid and do it on a contract basis. Marketing, right? So if I work for you, will you help me get onto stage? If I build on your platform, am I going to be speaking at Worldwide Developer Conference for Apple, for example, or at the Facebook F8 or whatever it might be? Will I be speaking on that stage? And if I do, I'll write an app, I'll build something really cool, right? So there was the visibility and the marketing. And the last one was distribution. Do you have 1 billion phones out there with eyeballs, right? And if you do, I can build on you, and then I can figure out how to promote it to that user segment. So those were the 4 matrices. And we realized that if you're going for like Europe, you want to be more focused and heavier on the documentation and the simplicity and the code and the engineering side. In the US, they were more focused on the marketing, right? So if you get me visibility, I can get out and a VC might see me and then I might get investment, right? So there was more of that approach. And then in Asia, I'd say it was more about making money, investment and development and earning for contract type development. But that took a number of years to get to that and learn that and build that out as experience. And yeah, super. It had a lot of great exposure. But then you're also, as an entrepreneur, you've got lots of hardships. It wasn't always great. It wasn't always fun. You're trying to make money work. You've got investors that are asking you, how's the performance? When I get my ROI? When are you selling the company? Making payroll go. You've got people that are interacting with each other. How do you create harmony? How do you build a common culture? So there are all these challenges that you got to manage at the same time as trying to grow your business. And the key thing is we tried out a lot of experiments where at the beginning, to be honest, I was just trying to drive the vision down everything. And I realized that's not going to work, right? That's just going to be me being the bottleneck all the time. And then you realize you've got to disperse the distribution of decision making. You've got to inform at global vision. What's our vision? How do I empower? What are the tools that are empowering, and invest in those tools that empower your teams to make their own decisions, to be able to drive on their own, build their own teams, see the direction that they feel the best fit for that area that they're focused on, and rely and trust them to work on that, but always be ready to help them when they have problems. And there will be mistakes, there will be faults, there will be real big troubles that you need to get involved in, but that's a learning, and you only learn that when you go down that path, and there's no better way of learning that. And so having that patience when that happens and having the passion to fix problems has been as another super important trait as an entrepreneur.
And what kept you going in terms of like knowing that this vision is going to materialize, or when you had struggles or doubts or difficulties in growing the vision or implementation of products or initiatives or organizing a team?
I mean, it's I suppose the drive to win, right? I just always wanted to be successful. I don't give up. I hate giving up. I just really I just felt that there was a way to find or pivot. There's got to be a way to get some traction. How do I find that? Where is it? The amount of no's you get, by the way, what everybody says is super true. I mean, you have to have really tough skin, because I have never received as many no's as I received there, right? And you think you're across the line, you work so hard, you get there, and then all of a sudden they choose IBM over a small startup, right? And or something like that, right? And then there's nothing you can do. And what gets you up, there's a song, you have all these songs that you remember, what I get knocked down, but I get up again, they're never going to keep me down, and things like that. And then you leverage those songs as means to motivate yourself again, and things like that. But yeah, you also have a lot of, I had friends and family that put money behind me and seeded some of these companies. And so you don't want to disappoint them, and you want to show them that you've worked as hard as you possibly can to do the best job you possibly can. And I think, that's as far as you can go. And I think that's all they're going to ask for, is that you put the best effort that you possibly could into it. And if you feel you've done that, and I think it's also important to know when's a cutoff point. And that's very hard to do, because you're very emotionally attached to a business, particularly when it goes up and then it comes down again, and then it goes up again. You have a lot of roller coasters. And when you go down, 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 when do you say no, right? I've had some failures too. And when do you say no? When do you pull out? And that's really hard. And I've always struggled with that side of the business. When do you let go?
And what are some key learnings?
Opportunity cost.
And what are some key learnings or advice from that, like in the journey and in?
Yeah, I mean, on the when it's going, I think just set a limit, right? Where and how far are you willing to go? I mean, I was very lucky at the time, because I put a lot of money into Bitcoin, and I put a lot of, and I made quite a bit of money in Bitcoin, and then I draw down on my Bitcoin to continue to double down. And I never said I'm not going to invest more than X number, right? And or something. So you put your own money behind it just because you think you can make it through. And so that's, I think, one thing that I should have done, and just said, this is my floor, this is my bucket, and just work with that. Because I always knew Bitcoin, if Bitcoin goes up, I'm going to make more money, I can fund it, whatever, So that was sort of the ride on that. And I think if I would have just capped it and said, this is my bucket, and then that would have helped.
Awesome. And how did you decide to work on things which were more meaningful, socially impactful? Because, I suppose one of the key focuses of Sonic is to do things that are good for the environment, do things that are good for the planet or the world.
Yeah, I mean, what got me into that was just, I'm a very outdoors person, I'm very active. I love the outdoor. I was very fortunate as a kid to see the world, to experience clear blue skies and great oceans and underwater sea life and things like that. So I just feel, I've got 4 children myself. I want them to be able to experience that same thing, right? That was the nice sort of eye around this. But also I felt Bitcoin and crypto or blockchain was always put in a negative light, right? It's like, why is it always negative? It's not negative. Maybe 1 or 2% of the actors are bad actors, right? But everybody else has a good meaning. Look at us, some of us here, and all the people in the industry that I meet, they're all super nice people. They're from diverse backgrounds, all sorts of, from anywhere around the world. And the internet and the blockchain makes no, racial, cultural, money discriminations, right? It's everything's open, and you have all these different people around. So it's great. And it works. You have a governance model that makes everything work. So how can we put and change the mindset of blockchain and Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies so that it does good? And I think if we capture and use some of the IoT sensors that are out there that can capture the sequestration in an automated fashion at a cost point that makes it affordable for every farmer to be able to capture that. Put that into a digital format, run that through an algorithm that says this is authentic, using Oracle services that you have today on the blockchain that confirm this is authentic, this looks real, this is accurate, I don't need to validate this anymore. That runs that into a consensus, a consensus model that says this is a carbon sequestration from this farmland, which has, I can convert into 5 tokens that is worth 5 carbon credits. And then I can funnel that and sell that on behalf of that farmer, or automatically that farmer gets it in his wallet, and then he can trade that on an exchange. So he can then fund his next piece of land or his next growth project or whatever. And so that's an element that I think if we do that for farmers, for our ocean, right, for people that want to have solar panels on their roof and earn additional income from solar panels, how do we make that possible and enable and empower those individuals on a distributed fashion so that they can be a part of the ecosystem and have their income come directly to them, not through 15 middlemen that then take a piece of the pie that are not necessarily adding value. But that's sort of that was sort of the reason behind that. And that's why I want to do that. I'm partially answering one of the chats and the questions that somebody put in there. So
I think that's amazing. Yeah, no, I think, and in terms of this efficiency, like how long do you think it's going to take? What are the barriers? What's going to speed it up?
Yeah. So the innovation is all taking place. There's lots of projects that are happening already on the blockchain. Not all of them have tokenized it. So I think there's an innovation around tokenomics, which if you've already built a project, you've got proof cases, to build out a token model and really an underlying ecosystem, economics around that token model will take you about 6 months. To build a whole blockchain solution like a regen network, that will, on the Cosmos blockchain, that will take you maybe, roughly 2 years. They've been working at it for about 1.5 years or nearly 2 years. So they've already got some pretty good head start. They're nearly there. And it's then about finding the projects that are going to adopt those solutions that then can be captured and then run through the ecosystem. And that'll take the whole thing will be about 1 year. My view is that there are a number of initiatives, and carbon credit market is already there today. It was really big in 2013, and it feels a bit like a crypto ride, right? So they went up in 2013, everybody was carbon credits, yeah, carbon credits, and then all of a sudden it fell down on its face again, and then, ooh, I don't want to touch it anymore. Nobody cares about that. And then all of a sudden, everybody started writing these CSR reports, right? These were big fat pieces of paper that were imprinted in color, beautiful, looked really nice, but nobody read them. And of course, it was environmentally unfriendly because it was printed on paper. So I just felt that there's a way to reawaken that desire to do carbon credits. And some of the entrepreneurs are really young that started off in 2013 and stuck through the whole carbon credit market. So there are a lot of trading entrepreneurs that are out there ready to trade it and build markets associated with this. And I think if we can get that going and reakin and awaken that what a carbon credit is and get the consumers aware of what a bad actor is versus a good actor and how to hold these companies accountable for their statements to be carbon neutral by such and such a date, and their product is only sellable if they have some sort of carbon footprint that I can see with my phone on a QR code in a product shelf at the supermarket, for example. Or when the Amazon shipment comes here, I want to have that QR code and see the origination of that product, the fibers, the chemicals, the origination, the labor, etc. Right? Is it a caring company or not, or whatever the right terms are? But you can have all of those today. And I think from a distribution scale, we're about two years out realistically. And we need to enable the entrepreneurs, the young talent to build these out. And everything I see at the moment is old government regulators, right, in suits, in far exclusive 5-star rooms only available to the exquisite and World Economic Forum members and IMF members. So how do we allow them to blend with the entrepreneurial talent and fund that entrepreneurial talent, because they're the ones that are going to drive it. We need to get away from white collar green to blue collar entrepreneur hustle green, right? And so that's what I want to help fund and drive.
And in terms of like a token, like how would you explain a token to someone who's never heard of like a token before, and how does a token driven economy look like, and how does it help an entrepreneur or someone who, you know, is a service provider, or someone who like is a farmer, or as Vamsi mentioned here, bottom of the pyramid customer, user, entrepreneur?
So the analogies I do a lot for tokens is you have air miles, hotel points. And if you think about those are value, they're quantifiable. Generally, they may be anywhere between 2 cents and 20 cents. If you're in a supermarket, you get coupons, you get discount codes. Those could all be reflected in the form of a digital token. The advantage that tokens provide is similar. It's in a digital format, so it means it's transferable across any other digital format, and it has a double spend capability. So very much like I give you my picture on Instagram, I still have a picture and you have a picture if I send you that from my phone. But what in a tokenomics is like, if I give you that picture is taken away from me and goes across to you. So now imagine all of a sudden, if you had your air miles or your mileage points with your hotel reward points, and you could then automatically share that with your family members or with your friends, and then you could you're not going to use them. Here, have some points. And so that's what, to me, the resemblance of tokens. It's the digitization of those capabilities that enable the fungibility of it. So I can have hundreds of tokens come together of the same style, and they can mix together and have the double spend ability with it. So if I give it to you, I lose it, you gain it, right? And so those elements all of a sudden come with tokens. How is that possible? If that becomes freely tradable, and I can share that with you, and you can use that next time you go to the supermarket, next time you go to the farmer's market, next time you go to a hotel stay or an airport flight, then all of a sudden it becomes quantifiable, and there is an economic benefit associated with that brings pleasure, it brings communication, everything that the world needs to be more harmonious.
Amazing. That sounds super exciting. And how does like Bitcoin fit into like tokens? Like, would you consider Bitcoin to be a token? And like, where do you see Bitcoin being heading, or like digital tokens in general?
I mean, so Bitcoin I would call a cryptocurrency, but in the way it is a token as well. The validation of a transaction is done on the Bitcoin with Bitcoin native, right? And so the difference is basically, I mean, Bitcoin's very different. I could explain the whole Bitcoin, but I mean, I would suggest go look at YouTube, Andreas Antonopoulos, what is Bitcoin? And then he'll explain to it all about, but there's a much larger complex element around that. But that happens in tokens as well. It's just not necessarily, I'm not mining coins, right? In the event of tokens, I have issued all the tokens generally up front, and then I use nodes to validate transactions. Whereas in the Bitcoin world, I have not minted all of those tokens yet, right? There are only 18 million Bitcoins in the market today. And I've got another element of years before those tokens get issued and printed out into the ecosystem. And the servers are working to win the ability to issue a new Bitcoin. In a token world, I have got all my nodes that are, and the node is basically a server that is hosting the database, and everybody is hosting that database. The more nodes I have out there, the more accurate and the more authentic that database is going to be, because I have more people safeguarding that database. In order to host that database, I am rewarding you with tokens for being if you will, for lack of a better name, a police. And so I am distributing to you, as you are a police, a set of tokens, which is very different from actually going out and competing against each other to win the next mining reward. I don't know if that makes sense, but that's sort of an analogy.
Amazing.
That I would
Yeah,
do.
Thanks for explaining. That was super. And like, I suppose in Sonic Capital, like, how do you think tokens can support an entrepreneur or an investor? Like, if someone has an idea and they issue a token for their idea, and the customers buy into these tokens that the entrepreneur is selling, and investors buy into these tokens, like, how do you think that sort of works for the different parties involved?
I mean, so first of all, in the token areas, there are a number of different token types, which I think you need to, as an entrepreneur, you need to understand what those token types are. A Bitcoin, a EOS, a Tezos, a Bitcoin Cash, they are all defined as what we call utility tokens. And what you're doing is you're paying you're paying a token fee to use and the consensus algorithm of those specific utility tokens. And you're going to build a governance token. I mean, there's so many different tokens out there. And so how do you find out what's the best token for your model that you're trying to build? In the event of an entrepreneur launching a new business, the advantage that tokens provide is the ability to use tokens as a fundraising mechanism. And I think that's the unique element associated with leveraging tokens as a means to raise funds. You don't need to have, it's a new way of in a way, having shareholders, right? They're just token holders versus shareholders. The rights, you have to check with a lawyer to find out what the rights are and how what works. But in essence, it's a way to raise money for your project.
Super cool. And I suppose aligning the incentives between all the different parties. And
yes,
I think us at Unit, we're super focused on seeing how we can solve the inequity by bridging the gap between customers and employees, as well as the founders and the investors who typically reap the rewards of like value created in most projects. And
I think that's the difficult balance, right? I mean, you're experiencing that with Unit, right? Where how much do I keep for the founders? How much do you distribute to your ecosystem of node providers, the investors, and then the customers, the end users, right? And then how do you distribute and deliver them into the market? So you're not all of a sudden flooding the market in one go, but you're slowly leaking them into the market, if you will, for lack of a better name, and then ensuring that the transaction volume justifies the number of tokens in the marketplace.
Definitely. And in terms of like getting global adoption, like Vamsi asked you, what is the basic infrastructure that's needed in terms of getting the mainstream or the long tail of people to adopt it? And yeah, welcome to ask questions here. We have about 10 minutes before.
Yeah, I mean, my view is it's really simple. We need a great user experience, number one. I mean, I think that's the real key element. How do we bring it to a user base that isn't necessarily very technologically savvy? We need distribution of wallets into all the phones. They're called wallets, where you can hold your tokens and store them. And I think those are, and then you need the ability to be able to use them. So either we do it on a peer-to-peer basis. I have a wallet, you have to have a wallet. Those wallets need to be compatible. So those are all still challenges that we have in terms of getting mass adoption and getting broader usage of these tokens. I think one thing, is I call it a lifetime achievement portfolio, where your wallet will evolve to become a reflection of all your passions, your interests, your education, your background, the projects you've worked with, the communities you're a part of, and they will all be reflected in the form of a token that is going to be embedded in your portfolio, your lifetime achievement portfolio, which today is still called a wallet, and we still need to build out the user experiences that allow it to be a reflection of such. And that is tomorrow. What we use today is LinkedIn. Where have you been? Who have you worked with? What are your recommendations? That is going to be replaced by a decentralized lifetime achievement portfolio. When that happens and is still open, but I think this decade is really going to show some truly innovative solutions on the blockchain. And you know what you're doing at Unit is exactly such an example, right? Where you're trying to enable all these different communities to create their own tokens, which then identifies us as a community member with that token. I have that token. I'm a part of Unit Hong Kong. I'm a part of Unit Berlin. So all of a sudden I have my unique token. I was at a Unique Berlin event as well. So all of a sudden it ties us as a community together. And maybe we begin to appreciate the value of those first 100 people that went to the event, got a unique token that is only non-fungible, that is then tradable for $100, because in order to participate in that event in the future, you need to have one of those tokens or something like that. So there's value that grows in that going forward as you build up a unique community sense and appreciation and trust in that token. And it really comes down to the trust of that token that that individual community has. And if it doesn't have that, then we have, then it's not going to have the value that's reflected in it, right?
I totally agree with you. I think it's going to be the next, even less than a decade. I think in the next 5 years, you know, this can really come into the mainstream use and adoption and really help a lot of communities and organizations to thrive. Like, I have a question here from Sasha. How do you think the crypto market will develop in the years to come? And are there any projects specifically that you are excited by and you think are really interesting for yourself?
I mean, I mean, you have to do your own research, right? And this is not advice and yada, yada, but I mean, I'm a big believer in crypto. A large portion, a greater portion of my asset base is in crypto. Than anything else I own. I'm a big believer in crypto. I think that today, you have value in the products that are being built on crypto. There is so much software engineering development and resources that's going into crypto. Ethereum 2.0. You look at the top 10, you know, Cosmos, I look at Tezos, Algorand that are going after the financial services market, Avalanche that's doing the same. You've got the enterprise, the governments, everybody's looking to go into crypto, that it's just a matter, and if you get in early, you learn about it, you will create new careers for yourself in the future. There's going to be so much opportunity in this market that we don't know, and it's going to impact every facet of our industry. Every economical industry vertical that we're working on, from insurance to entertainment through to, I mean, I don't know all the vertical, retail, consumer communities, etc. Right? So it's going to touch everything. The timing is obviously important and getting that right. And I'm super excited today about DeFi. I mean, I love DeFi. I love decentralization of the services that these financial applications are offering. You can today, I can log in with my MetaMask. I can then go and use my Ethereum as a collateral. I can borrow against that. I can then use that collateral to pay my service provider. They can use that borrowed funds to invest in something else. I can use that to do other activities. But I'm also exposed to, if the price fluctuation of Ethereum hits, then all of a sudden, oh my God, I need to solve that problem in terms of how I make sure I don't fall below a liquidation event so that they will liquidate my assets and things like that. So I have staking. I mean, there's so many different opportunities where you can actually earn passive income. And you cannot do that today in fiat. you can buy Apple stock. Okay, that's already super expensive, right? You can buy real estate. Ooh, which real estate do you buy? Where do you buy it? Will a bank give you a loan for that? So where do you put that? Nowhere. And then that doesn't earn you passive income anymore because real estate's already bluffed and everybody's leaving the cities. So they're going into urban areas, suburban areas. So I just don't find anywhere else I can put in a government bond. I'm not going to do that. I mean, it's like, why would I do that, right? I'm going to, in 10 years time, when it expires with inflation, I'm going to get 30% of my money back. I wouldn't do that. I will buy gold. Yeah, I mean, you could buy gold, but I mean, how the hell do I carry gold around? Where do I put it? It's like, oh my God, I have to carry this huge suitcase that's super heavy with all this gold around everywhere I go. I can't carry in my pockets and pay somebody with it. So I just find that cryptocurrencies represent a super interesting opportunity for wealth creation, passive earning on the wealth, as well as the ability to trade, transact extremely freely, easily, and happily, how trade was meant to be.
Amazing. And how do you approach strategic business partnerships, like in building companies? I guess there's a slight tangent, but like how do you develop partnerships and grow a business from the strategic side?
So yeah, finding the right partners is super important. And that's, there are a couple of elements. One is skill and chemistry, right? I mean, do they have the skill? And my recommendation is if you're looking for a specific solution, you have a pain point. Okay, who out there, and I don't want to hire 5 people to solve that pain point. I want to find somebody I can work with and have fun together to solve that pain point. So what skill do I need? Who are the players? Do Google, right? Just go Google, search player. I have this pain point, right? I need payments, for example. Okay, how do I find, token generation. Who knows token generation? I look that on the internet. There are 1,500 companies. Okay, then how do I map that with who are the people behind that? LinkedIn. Okay, take those companies, go into LinkedIn. Who are the people involved in that company? You talk to 1, 2, 3, or you go to a unit event or a meetup event, and then you find out in that meetup event or unit event, there are 3 other people that have that solution. Ooh, of those 3, how much are they charging a lot? Are they expensive? So I have to look at money. And then, oh, this guy, man, we had a really good beer together. We spoke. He gets my vision. He understands me. That's the guy you want to work with, right? And if you find that's how you go about doing that, you just have to be extrovert. And now, because we're not traveling, we can do unit events like this, where we're all online in Zoom. You can ask in the chat, I'm looking for a solution like this. And then, somebody on a private chat will say, hey, I can help you. And then you get on a conversation, and maybe he not be the right person, but he may introduce you to 1 or 2 other people, or introduce you to one of his colleagues that will, on his team or something like that. And that will then start a drawdown. Don't make a decision too fast. Find the right person to make it with and go down that path. That's for sure. That would be my suggestion. But you've got to find your pain point, find somebody that is skilled in that area, and then within that area of skill, basically select the person that you communicate best with. Communication is going to be the key of that successful win-win partnership.
Amazing. And as an entrepreneur, like how would you suggest being sustainable, like in terms of generating passive income? Or would you recommend to fundraise and speak to angel investors or venture capitalists? Like,
well, that's a super hard question. It depends how big your project is and what your infrastructure investment is going to need up front. I believe that to help you with a bit of pressure is having outside money. Be that in a token sale or equity sale. So either it comes from friends and family when you seed it, because then you just feel you have a sense of responsibility. And then you want to take that to, and for me, that's what helps me. And so I do recommend you find first some friends and family, and then you go to an angel investor. But be careful when you talk to these investors. validate them first, ask them, interview them. They're not interviewing you, you are interviewing them. You need to know that they're going to stick with you through the good times and the hard times. They have a Rolodex that they can introduce you to 15 other people to help you in your area of business progress, add new leads, open new doors in those win-win partnerships that we talked about earlier. How can they be a sounding board for you? And I think that's really important and a key learning I had, and then sometimes it's very difficult because you get very desperate. I need the money, I need to pay salaries if you've already got 5 people and you got to worry about that. How do you do that? Don't let that drive you. I think just be careful about that and be as open as you can with your team members. Just tell them if you're having hard with funding, let them know, let them share the pain. 1 or 2 people will go, maybe leave because they need to make their ends meet, but they will then come and support you. They will then all of a sudden be very creative. They might have 2 or 3 contacts that they know. So I think that was also another learning I had, which was really sharing as much of the situation versus keeping it all on your own shoulders. It's already difficult as an entrepreneur, but with your core team, you want to be as transparent and as open about every situation as you possibly can. And that then relieves the pressure and then and helps you with making better decisions in the long run. Because under pressure, decisions you make are not always the best decisions.
Amazing. Thanks so much for that. So we have a link here for feedback and reflections for the session. So if everyone could just click on the link that Yip shared, and maybe last question to kind of sum up. What's your vision or dream for the future? Like what's something that you aspire for, maybe yourself or for the world, and are excited about?
Yeah, I think we saw up there universal basic income, and somebody wrote here, as a micro entrepreneur, what suggestions are you having for passive income? For me, I love that element. I do love the element of still providing opportunity. I think the world has enough resources. Let's put it like that. The way the world and our planet is governed today is not allocating those resources optimally. In fact, it's very distorted. How do we manage our resources, the talent that we have around this planet? How do we manage that better and provide a better allocation of those resources so that everybody can also participate in that? For me, an ideal world is we have all of the governance on the blockchain. We don't need much governments, right? We can fund all of the projects through these various blockchains that are going to provide a governance solution for all of us on this planet efficiently and effectively. We can decide as individuals which solution to support and which not, which community to be a part of and which not. To me, that is, and then as a result, if I'm a node, I can earn income by being a node, right? By just having a node of unit trust. If I'm a community member to manage the node unit tokens, how do I be a community participant and earn unit tokens that is of value within the unit community? And at some point, everybody outside the unit community will appreciate that value, and that unit token will become replaceable or tradable with somebody else in a Sonic environment, right? So they can then trade that for the Sonic token and they can use it in the Sonic token. And that's all going to be seamless at some point. And that's the vision I have and hope we can get to at least this century,
Definitely, I totally agree with you. And I think, even in less than a decade or the next 5 years, like super inspiring, and like love the insights and thoughts and like learnings here. And thank you so much for your time, Stefan, and excited to if anyone has any follow-up questions, maybe you can share in the chat, and we'd love to feature discussion.
You can follow me on Twitter, srust99, or you can, my email is, you can share that around with everybody. But I'm pretty responsive on Telegram. I'm also srust99. So you can use that as well. I just really believe that these next 5 years, we're going to be building the foundation for all of the opportunities that are going to be created in this century, right? And so very much how the automotive industry changed the last century, we're going to see, and the computer industry really brought about the change since, the last, I don't know, century, if you will, till now. How are we going to go forward, right? So since 1950, I think computers first started. Look at all that innovation, and we're now all in digital world, right? And it's only going to accelerate even faster. So it's going to be super exciting times. We need to be adaptable. We need to be flexible. We need to change. But I think us as a society and a generation, we're all super able to do that. And so exciting times.
Definitely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Stefan. So
thank you very much, everybody.
You can follow Stefan on Twitter, srust99, and his group on Telegram is Sonic.capital. And we can share his email, and if anyone has any questions, welcome to write direct. And cool. Thanks, guys, and just use the feedback link also.
Thank you, everybody. Here, I'll just put then you can join that if you like. If you're all on Telegram, if not, then there you go.